Gordon Hoyt, CEO of Somerset County Cricket Club, thank you very much indeed for joining us today to discuss our latest edition of our CEO's Digest. I guess it's important to start with the fact that, you know, after what's been a turbulent couple of years, we're seeing the return of large crowds here to the Cobra Associates County Ground.
Yeah, it's fantastic, isn't it? Really refreshing after a couple of really difficult years to see so many people back in, and families and people from various backgrounds. Young people, some people not so young like me, and everything in between as well. It's been wonderful.
It is important, isn't it, obviously with the return to sports and return to large crowds, that we continue to create a welcoming environment for everyone, isn't it?
It certainly is, and I think it's worth noting that sporting venues around the country post-COVID are reporting some significant decline in crowd behaviour of spectators for whatever reason. We saw that in football, we've seen it at horse racing, we've seen it at Lords, we've seen it everywhere, and we're not immune from that here, and that concerns me. So that we need to be a welcoming venue, welcoming environment for everyone to come into this ground, regardless of what age they are, what gender they are, what background they're from. This needs to be a venue that really welcomes people, and in particular families. So there are a number of measures that we are taking. This year we've had over 15 ejections from the ground, and it's really important to say that those ejections are not always obvious. The stewards are very careful not to amplify an already tense situation by overtly ejecting people, so they do it quietly, and that's something, that over 15 is the highest number we've had at this stage in the season so far, which is disappointing. But we will be taking a very firm line on behaviour that becomes antisocial or discriminatory. They're two things that we will not exist. We really want people to have fun, but at the same time you mustn't spoil other people's fun at the same time. So we're really appealing to people to come along, have a great time, by all means have a drink, behave yourself, and go home happy, having witnessed a Somerset win.
Obviously, you mentioned 15 ejections. In the grand scheme of things, with the numbers of people we're dealing with, 15 is obviously a very small number, but it is something that we do need to nip in the bud, isn't it?
I think that's a really good point. It's a very small minority. The vast majority of the feedback we get is people have come here and they've loved being back, and they've really had a good night and they've enjoyed themselves. But there is that small minority of people who either arrive at the gates and having had too much alcohol. We don't let them in, just to be clear, we don't let them in. And then there's some that get gradually less civilised as the night goes on, and we're stamping that out. We're introducing a text service because we really realise that some people find it difficult to go up to a steward and say, that person's really spoiling my night. So we can do it discreetly by texting 66777, that's 66777, SCCC, and then advise us which stand you're in, which seat number you're in, and where the problem exists, and then we'll make sure that a steward is deployed to go and observe that behaviour and make sure that either there's a quiet word to ask them to calm down, or if it's worse than that, ejecting them. And so I'd really encourage people to use that 66777, SCCC, followed by your message, which stand you're in, which seat number you're in, and we will act on that. Really encourage people to use that.
I mean, as a club and as a venue, antisocial and discriminatory behaviour is not something that we will tolerate, is it?
Absolutely not. And there's a fine line, because we want people to have fun. But there is a line, and we know where that line is. And the line is, if it's spoiling someone else's night, then we're gonna act on that, and at least ask for moderation in behaviour, or, as I say, ejecting when things aren't listened to. Much of this is created by excess alcohol. That's the reality, is that people who have excessive amount of alcohol tend to behave in a way that isn't sociable, and it's that we'll be keeping a really close eye on too. If people come to the bar and they're clearly not fit to have another drink, then we'll not serve them. So we're really trying hard to make sure that everyone it comes here and has an enjoyable night.
I guess it's important to get the message across, isn't it, that a welcoming and family and happy environment is more important to us than a couple of extra quid over the bar.
It's not about money, but because you lose far more money if you get this wrong, then you would gain by serving extra revenue. It's not about the money, genuinely isn't. Obviously, we want people to come in and spend their money with the club and support the club, of course we do. But that's not at the expense of people behaving in a way that's not appropriate. That we will not tolerate that.
So the short answer is, come to Somerset County Cricket Club, enjoy the game, enjoy the spectacle, but do it in a way that doesn't interfere with other people's enjoyment?
Please, we'd really encourage everybody to do what you've just said.